A cursed forest? The very thought sent chills down my spine. It was a place shrouded in mystery and fear, a place where the bravest dared not tread. Legends spoke of eerie whispers and ghostly apparitions that haunted the woods. No way! My voice trembled as I tried to mask my fear. The stories of the cursed forest had always been just that, stories. But standing at the edge of those dark woods, they felt all too real. Scared? My friend Max smirked, his eyes gleaming with mischief. He had always been the daring one, the one who pushed boundaries and laughed in the face of danger. This was just another one of his crazy ideas. The woods loomed before us, dark and menacing. The trees seemed to whisper secrets to each other, their branches swaying ominously in the wind. The path ahead was barely visible, swallowed by the shadows of the night. A shiver ran down my spine. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but pride and the presence of my friends kept me rooted to the spot. Double dare you to spend the night. Max's eyes glinted with excitement. He knew I couldn't back down from a double dare. It was an unspoken rule among us, a challenge that had to be met no matter the cost. Our friends exchanged nervous glances, each one silently hoping someone else would step up and take the dare. The tension was palpable, a mix of fear and anticipation hanging in the air. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "All right, I'll do it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The words felt heavy, like a weight settling on my shoulders. My friends erupted in cheers, their voices a mix of relief and admiration. They clapped me on the back, offering words of encouragement that did little to quell the growing knot of fear in my stomach. With one last look at my friends, I stepped into the forest. The darkness swallowed me almost immediately, the sounds of the outside world fading into a distant memory. Every step felt like a journey into the unknown. The deeper I went, the more oppressive the silence became. My eyes darted around, trying to pierce the darkness and catch any sign of movement. Every crack of a twig, every rustle of leaves set my nerves on edge. I found a small clearing and decided it was as good a place as any to spend the night. I sat down, my back against a tree, and tried to calm my racing thoughts. The night was long, and the forest seemed to come alive with every passing minute. Strange noises filled the air, each one more unsettling than the last. I could hear whispers, faint and indistinct, as if the forest itself was trying to communicate with me. My imagination ran wild, conjuring images of ghosts and spirits lurking just out of sight. Despite the fear gnawing at my insides, I was determined to see the dare through. I reminded myself that it was just one night, and come morning I would be back with my friends laughing about how scared I'd been. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, a wave of relief washed over me. The forest, which had seemed so menacing in the dark, now looked almost peaceful. I had made it through the night. I emerged from the woods to the cheers of my friends. They surrounded me, their faces beaming with pride and excitement. I had faced my fears and come out the other side, stronger and braver than before. The dare had been a test of courage, and I had passed. As we walked away from the forest, I couldn't help but smile. The cursed forest had lost its power over me, and I knew that no challenge was too great if I faced it head-on. The trees pressed in, their branches like skeletal fingers. The air grew heavy, filled with strange scents. Each rustle of leaves sent chills down my spine. I felt a presence, watching us. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, grabbing Max's arm. A low growl echoed through the trees, then silence. My heart pounded in my chest. We pushed onward, deeper into the unknown. Two glowing eyes appeared in the darkness ahead. I gasped, frozen in fear. The eyes blinked, then vanished. My breath caught in my throat. What was out there? A blood-curdling scream pierced the night. We didn't hesitate. We ran, branches whipping at our faces. The forest seemed alive with unseen terrors. We burst into a small clearing, gasping for breath. In the center stood an old, dilapidated cabin. A faint light flickered inside. Could it be our salvation? We crept towards the cabin, every sense on high alert. As we reached the door, it creaked open, revealing a shadowy figure inside. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the worst. "Who's there?" I whispered, my voice trembling with fear. The darkness around me seemed to close in, suffocating and impenetrable. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in the silence. I could feel the cold sweat trickling down my back as I strained my ears, hoping to catch any sound that might give away the presence of another being. The shadows danced on the walls, creating monstrous shapes that fueled my growing anxiety. I took a hesitant step forward, my footfalls barely making a sound on the creaky wooden floor. The air was thick with tension, and every fiber of my being was on high alert. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that something or someone was lurking just beyond my line of sight. Suddenly, a raspy voice called out from the darkness, sending a shiver down my spine. "Who's there?" it repeated, the words hanging in the air like a sinister echo. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The voice was unfamiliar, yet there was something oddly familiar about its tone. It was as if it carried the weight of countless untold stories, each one more haunting than the last. I wanted to run, to escape the oppressive atmosphere that surrounded me, but my legs refused to move. I was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by fear and curiosity. The shadowy figure in the distance seemed to grow larger, more defined, as it slowly approached. My mind raced with possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. Was it a ghost? A monster? Or perhaps something even worse? As the figure drew closer, I could make out the features of an old woman. Her face was lined with age, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and concern. She seemed out of place in the eerie setting, like a relic from a bygone era. I opened my eyes wider, trying to take in every detail. Her clothes were tattered and worn, and she moved with a slow, deliberate grace. There was something almost ethereal about her, as if she were a ghost from the past, trapped in this dark and foreboding place. Despite her frail appearance, there was a strength in her gaze that made me feel both comforted and uneasy. I couldn't help but wonder what had brought her here, to this place of shadows and fear. Her face, etched with worry, softened as she saw my frightened expression. She was no monster, just a lonely soul seeking solace in the darkness. Relief washed over me like a warm wave, dispelling the cold fear that had gripped my heart. She smiled kindly, a gesture that seemed to light up the room, and I felt a sense of calm settle over me. The tension in the air dissipated, replaced by a quiet understanding between us. She reached out a hand, and I took it, feeling the warmth of her touch. In that moment, I realized that the true monsters were not the ones lurking in the shadows, but the fears and doubts that we carry within ourselves. Together, we stood in the dimly lit room, two souls finding comfort in each other's presence, and the darkness no longer seemed so terrifying. We spent the rest of the night with the old woman, listening to her stories. Her voice was soft yet filled with a wisdom that only comes with age. Each tale she told was a thread in a rich tapestry of experiences, weaving together lessons of courage, love, and resilience. We were captivated, hanging on to every word, as the flickering firelight cast dancing shadows on the walls of the cozy cabin. It felt as though time stood still, and the outside world with all its fears and uncertainties melted away. The old woman spoke of her own adventures, of times when she too had faced the unknown and emerged stronger. Her stories were not just about battles won or dangers overcome, but also about the quiet moments of reflection and the inner strength that comes from facing one's fears. She told us about the forest that surrounded us, how it had once seemed like an impenetrable fortress of darkness, but with time and understanding it revealed its true beauty and secrets. We learned that the forest was not just a place of shadows, but a living, breathing entity with its own rhythms and cycles. The night wore on, and as we listened, we felt a sense of kinship with the old woman, and with each other. We realized that we were not alone in our fears, and that sharing our stories and experiences made us stronger. The warmth of the fire and the comfort of the old woman's presence gave us a newfound sense of peace and courage. The forest didn't seem so scary anymore. In the light of day it was a place of wonder and discovery. The trees, which had loomed ominously in the darkness, now stood tall and majestic, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating dappled patterns on the forest floor. We could hear the chirping of birds and the rustle of small animals going about their day. It was as if the forest had transformed overnight, shedding its cloak of mystery to reveal a vibrant, thriving ecosystem. We walked among the trees, feeling a sense of awe and respect for the natural world. The old woman's stories had given us a new perspective, and we saw the forest not as a place to be feared, but as a place to be explored and cherished. We felt a connection to the land and to the creatures that called it home. The forest was alive with possibilities, and we were eager to discover its secrets. As the sun rose, we left the cabin, braver than before, knowing that sometimes the things we fear the most are just shadows in the dark. The dawn brought with it a sense of renewal and hope. The sky was painted with hues of pink and orange, and the air was crisp and fresh. We felt a sense of accomplishment, having faced our fears and come out stronger on the other side. The old woman's stories had given us the courage to look beyond the shadows and see the light. We walked with a newfound confidence, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey through the forest had changed us, and we knew that we would carry the lessons we had learned with us, always. The world seemed a little less daunting, and we felt a sense of gratitude for the experiences that had brought us to this moment. We knew that there would be more challenges to come, but we also knew that we had the strength and resilience to face them. The things we fear the most are just shadows in the dark. And as we walked into the sunlight, we carried with us the knowledge that fear is often a creation of our own minds. The real world with all its beauty and wonder was waiting for us to explore and embrace. We smiled, knowing that we were braver than before, ready to face whatever came our way. The journey had taught us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward despite it. And with that understanding, we stepped into the future with open hearts and minds, ready for the adventures that awaited us.